everyone, and welcome back to the NOIC Godcast, where we offer wacky wisdom weekly from God's Word. This whole month, we are taking a look at our theme for camp, Brick by Brick. Well, today we're going to discuss how sometimes the bricks that we use to get closer to God will actually end up hurting us in the end. Today we want to talk about banished bricks. That was a go. You know, stop it.
I just.
Do you got something better than that?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, man's attempts to get to God can never prevail. From the very beginning, God has rejected man's own efforts and has prevented what we provide. Even though we have been given two hands and it often feels like we need to build, God's desire is for us to give up our self-efforts, surrender our hands to Him and purposes, and allow Him to bring us to where He is. We can give every effort, grin and bear it with all that we've got, yet on our own, we are not capable of getting to God. A true Christian gives up his rights to make a name for himself. Self-accomplishment is no longer his aim for life. So, you already got something.
Already.
Wow.
So I just wanted to unpack that a little bit. So Monday of camp, our first day together, we're kind of laying a foundation, ironically, for the week.
Yeah.
Because I think if anyone has followed this month or this year's theme, brick by brick, maybe you're hearing that and you're like, that sounds like a lot of work. Like laying brick sounds like a lot of sweat and blood, like you know, a lot of. And I've laid brick actually here at the church, so I know it is a lot of work. But ironically, we're starting off the week by telling everyone, don't build.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally what Monday's theme is telling them, you can't build, but you're going to.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. So on Monday of camp, we're using the story of the Tower of Babel.
Yes.
Which, full transparency, is not a story I've ever heard at a camp or really at VBS or really most most Sunday school
They kind of
classes.
skip over it. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a short.
It is a short one, and it's in Genesis, which has so much going on. But like Tower of Babel is kind of skipped. But it's interesting that as the Bible is being compiled in Genesis, our first book of the Bible, there's this story about these people who want to get to God, but God says, no, you can't do that. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like I should be paying attention to that. And so we're going to unpack that Monday at camp. And if you go to San Antonio, you hear this almost every single Sunday. But it's interesting that a lot of times when we grow up in church, what we hear is do this, do better, get it right, wear this, go here, don't go here, read this, pray this, sit here, attend this. Like it's all do. And yet the Bible says you can't.
Yes.
And so it's interesting. If you know me, one of my top 5 favorite Bible verses is John 15:5, which we will use at camp in a prayer station with a very strange balloon pump. You have to be there to understand.
Yes.
But it's actually on my wall in my office, and Jesus says this, I'm the vine, you're the branches, abide in me, bear much fruit. But then Jesus says these words, and this is why it's my favorite. I don't care much about fruit. I mean, I do. But my favorite part of the verse is where Jesus says, for without me, you can do nothing. That's right.
You can do nothing.
You can do nothing. And that's really, like, if you boil it down, that's the story of the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
Is you can't get to God.
Yeah.
And so we're going to start the week by talking about banished bricks. There are bricks that we can build our life into, like we talked last week, but then there are also bricks that God won't accept. And he says, if you use those, disqualified. Not going to accept those. And what's interesting is, in the story of the Tower of Babel, God actually comes down and like obliterates their efforts. Yeah. And he scatters them everywhere. Like, ha, nice try. And like, God doesn't mean that in a cruel way, but he's making a point here.
Yes.
You can't, and I'm not going to let you.
Yeah. It's almost like when I actually, like, not in an irreverent way, but when I've like read that, I kind of think of like a toddler coming in and taking down like you build, you know how you build the Legos with your other kids, and then the toddler comes running through just like poof, or like everywhere. That's kind of like what he does, you know, and not in an irreverent way. He's just trying to prove it. I think that if he would have been like, guys, don't do that, we wouldn't have listened.
Right, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like they would have been like, oh, well, he said maybe not, but maybe he means really build more. You know what I mean? So he really needed to just scatter it just to make it so that he can't.
And that story it's a very physical story. Like it's not really a very, in Genesis, it's not a super spiritual story. It's a very physical story. Does that make sense? They're physically building a physical tower to physically get to heaven, to God. Physically. But what's interesting is, as you fast forward and even you get to the New Testament, you find that there's this new sect of people who are trying to build to God spiritually.
Yes.
And that's who Jesus battles with most in his actual time here on earth, the Pharisees, the legalists, the people who are trying to get to God by their own efforts, their own means. And ironically, there was no scattering as far as like he obliterated their Lego tower.
Yeah.
But Jesus had very not nice things to say to these folks.
Yes.
And he was their biggest critic. And again, it's the same idea. God is saying, nope, not going to have it, not going to accept it.
Yep. So God has called us to have this life, and it's not just our foundation isn't, I think we've talked about this before, but like our foundation isn't just like Jesus is our foundation, but we're obviously supposed to be building more, and that building more is supposed to be the abundant life.
Right.
It's not supposed to be, just, I have this foundation, I'm good.
Yep.
And so I think that Christians, we really are okay with the bare minimum a lot of the time. And we're like, oh, well, I have this. I don't need to build anymore because Jesus is all I need. Mm-hmm. And so that's true. True. Jesus is all you need, but he has called us to build our life.
Right.
And so how do you guys keep from accepting the bare minimum?
3 words.
Mm-hmm.
Old.
You did a really good job this morning with the counting.
what happened was I was thinking blessed assurance. Not
It's one word.
Yeah, no, I was
hyphened.
No, the 3 words I was looking for is Jesus is mine.
Oh.
Blessed assurance was the title of the song, but the looks I got, I was like, that did not count correctly. Anyways, it doesn't matter. 3 words.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Old, dead,
Men.
guys.
Oh.
It's like you don't know me at all. I like to read old Christian biographies, listen to preaching by old dead guys, because what that shows me is this. There's this version of Christianity that we've been sold today. And then there's the actual abundant life that everyone has been living literally for thousands of years that we've kind of tucked away and hidden.
Yeah.
And so it keeps me on my toes. Like, I want that. I want what Tozer had and Spurgeon and Thomas and Murray and all. I want what they have because that's the real stuff.
Yes.
I guess mine's kind of the opposite of that. It's
New
Living,
people.
living young girls.
Okay.
No.
That's the opposite of old dead guys. I don't know.
It's like that motivates me, but like also like I want that for my kids.
Yeah.
So living that life and
That would be the opposite.
yeah,
Good job. Good job.
So like living that life, I have to live that now, so my kids know that it is attainable, that you can do that.
Yeah.
What was the question again? No. No. To me, it's more about like if you more about acceptance, I guess is a good way to put it. Okay. So if I'm doing, living my life for Christ and everything else, okay, the way that I look at it is like, I want, it's in my head. It's kind of like trickling out my mouth here.
You need a napkin or something?
No. Okay. So, like you said, like you want like a better life for your kids. Okay. Well, I kind of think more on like a worldly thing. Okay. Because like, I mean, I truly want everyone to see God. Okay. Like that is like one of my heart's biggest desires. Okay. So to me, it's like, in the same vein, I said in and anyway, I'm trying to stop doing that.
It's fine. It's good.
Okay? No, so, like Rachel said, it's what did it again? Building more to spread out more.
You're not just reaching just like the people that you know. You want it to be more towards everybody.
Right. Yeah. Like one of my prayers is that God's people in my life or in my path that I don't know. Yeah. Who I get to, talk to, because for some reason to me, that's easier to do because, I know a lot of people who are Christians, you know what I mean? And like trying to talk to them is just like, well, I did my part. I told you the truth. Now, however you digest that.
I think the underlying thing here is that we live at such a time when Christianity is accepted of the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And we're so used to looking around at the people who sit next to us in the pews, the people who we go to church with, the people who are considered Christians, and like their lives are bare minimum. Yeah. And so the pastor, I think it was Wednesday, I don't even remember when it was. He was actually talking about preachers, but he made the point. He was like, basically, I hear, someone, and so I'll look at a Christian and I'll think, that's the best God can do.
Yeah.
Like if it's supposed to be God living in us and it's not I, but Christ who lives, Christ lives in me. And you're claiming that your Christian life is Christianity and that's God living inside of you. That's the best God can do. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And so we're so used to living and accepting the bare minimum in our lives. Yep. Jesus said, I come not to give life, but life more abundantly. And so you're talking about the foundation illustration. So a lot of times, you know, we get saved and we're like, I get to go to heaven. That's why I got saved. That's a foundation.
Right.
But Jesus didn't come to just give us life.
Yeah.
He came to give us life more abundantly. And so that's a full-blown house, a full-blown temple of God on top of that foundation. Yeah. And the pastor preached this morning. But there's something very real about we will stand before the judgment seat of Christ and give an account, not for the foundation. No. That's at the throne of God. We'll give an account for what's above that foundation, what we've built above it. And that's the theme this year is brick by brick. And so it's the abundant factor. Yes. It's the above the foundation factor. It's the life that counts factor that we're digging into.
Well, and that's like for like me with the whole thing of trying not to become bare minimum. It's scary to be bare minimum in this world. Like, think about all the things that are going on, things that we probably don't even know about that are happening, whether it be government wise or, you know, whatever, like anything that's happening. Like, you have the foundation, like you said, you have that foundation, but you don't have anything else. And so when wind comes, you may have that foundation. You are saved. You are going to heaven, but you don't know how to handle anything that's thrown at you. And like, it's like the whole thing of like keeping, like they always say that you should keep the Bible like in your mind and your heart. That way, like, because we always tell the kids, like, if there's a time that you can't have a Bible, to be able to look back on that and remember that and to be able to, so like, that's the thing is like, this is the whole thing of not having the bare minimum is this world is going to toss you. And you better have the thing around you to keep you safe.
The funny thing is, like, so you all live in houses.
Yes.
I've been to all of your houses.
You've been to his house?
I picked him up.
You picked me up for camp.
Once. Yeah, ironing board.
Ironing board.
So anyways, the funny thing is most people in the general population would not be satisfied with just having a brick foundation as their house. No walls, no windows, no doors, no curtains, no TVs.
Open concept.
That it is. That it is. Most people would not be satisfied with that. No. And you know, when it comes spiritually, we are very satisfied by just the bricks. Yep. Just the because we don't want to be constricted. Yeah.
I think that the reason why is because, like you said before, like you may look at another Christian and say, like, that's the Christian life. It's not saying like that's all God can do. That's all you're letting God to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yes. Like, you're speaking as if you understand this, but you're not. You know what I mean? It's like a water vial or something. And it's just dripping out, and you're like.
So this is the question that I ponder. Do they really believe that they're living the epitome of the Christian life? Like, have they convinced themselves that? Because I've met a lot of people. I've met some that I think they know. Yeah. There's more to be had here in this life. But I've met others, and it's like, no, this is all there is. Like, this is as good as it gets. And I'm like, again, like you said, that's not really all God could do. Like, is there not more I could let him do in my life? I actually had that as my third question, but I'm going to actually bring it's a little bit different take, but like it goes along with that. Is that so? In the Tower of Babel, everybody was building. But do you think that there were people, even though it was wrong, there were people that were in there that truly wanted that, and they thought that the people that were leading them were like, "This is how we're going to do it." So necessarily, they weren't ill-intended. Does that make sense? But they were caught up in the midst of everybody else, and so. How much more is it important for us to not be selfish, to not want the bare minimum, because we are showing other people that it's okay to have the bare minimum. Does that make sense? Like, so if you're not portraying that you should have a house, then other Christians are not going to want that house either. It doesn't matter where you're at in Christian life. Someone's always looking up to you.
Yeah.
Always.
Go ahead.
Like, so I think that people just misunderstand the Bible. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because like we're told to be, meek and humble. You know what I'm saying? So like, for instance, someone may take that as, okay, I have to be meek and humble even when I'm speaking of God. You know what I mean? So like, okay, I want to have this conversation with God with this coworker, but I must be meek and humble about it instead, and that's the time when you should not be. So people...
It's when you should be confident.
Exactly. So as humans, we have a hard time with duality.
Yeah,
definitely. Yes. Like when, when to speed up, when to slow down, when to apply this, and when not to.
Which ironically, do you know what fixes that? The abundant life in you. Yeah. He tells you when and when not to and how to. Well, that's the thing is the very thing they need is the very thing they're skirting around.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was just going to say is that we have a problem with duality in general, like the whole meekness
both at the same-
be at the same time.
Right.
But we also have the hard time of knowing that. So there's confidence in yourself and there's confidence in him.
Right.
And so like we have a hard time not only with the duality of meekness and confidence, but we have to realize which confidence it is.
Whose
Because
confidence? Yeah.
you can go boldly to somebody and be like, you need to get saved in yourself, and that's going to do nothing. Because when you come, it won't always be perceived from the other way, but when you come to somebody in God's confidence, it's not going to come off as you showing off.
So in the story of the Tower of Babel, this intrigues me on levels I can't explain. God says this. They'll do it.
Yeah.
Do you remember that part of the story?
Like,
He says
you're
they'll
gonna
do
make
it.
it.
So this is what I want to perplex the table with. If you're right, haven't you earned arrogance or pride? You know what I mean?
No.
Like does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
I can't think of an example at the moment.
Yeah.
I tried very hard not to be arrogant or prideful, so
Yeah.
I can't think of something. But I've met people like that.
Yeah.
Like, this has justified me being this way because this is right. This is true.
Yeah.
Like, even knowing the Bible, maybe that's a perfect example. You can know the Bible. Is that a good thing?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you be so confident, and may I use the word cocky,
Yeah.
in knowing the Bible
Yes.
that it's unedifying and godly
Yes.
and it's not getting you to God?
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's the 18 inches.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
right. And so that's what I'm saying here is exactly what you said. Know which confidence it is.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if it's in the Bible and prayer and anything. It doesn't matter if you are a saint, if you are a Pharisee of Pharisees. If it's confidence in you, God rejects it. He banishes those
Yep.
bricks. He
Yes.
scatters your salvation and does not accept it at all.
Well, and I think that's the reason why people don't go boldly.
Yeah.
Because, and it's not an excuse. It's an excuse in their head, but it's not a legitimate excuse. They don't want to be bold because they don't want to be prideful. Does that make sense? They're not going to be boastful of God because they don't know how to handle it. And that's still a you problem. You have to
Right.
get rid of you.
Right.
Like,
Right.
that's not I'll just keep in the corner.
So let me say this. So I love you too.
Oh no.
Oh no, it's right. Yeah, I love Kevin too, but specifically you because I'm going to pick on you.
Oh no.
So I think this is what you're trying to say.
Yes.
The opposite is also true. By being anti-prideful,
Yes.
if that would be the term I would use, you're still being prideful and full of
Yes.
yourself.
Yes.
And so what you're saying is God does want me to build by his efforts, but I'm not going to do it because then they'll think it's me.
Yeah.
That's equally wrong.
Yeah.
God
Right.
banishes those anti-bricks. If
Yeah.
this terminology
Yeah.
is getting a little weird. But do you see what I'm
going
saying?
backwards.
So like you two are the perfect example. So this year came away with a great surprise. The girls are actually going to be teaching for the first time at camp. And I'm personally super, super, super excited for that. I think it's a long time coming and I'm so excited for them to do that. But they are very, very reserved and hesitant about this for the exact reason I just said.
Yes, still.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're still thinking about you. And
Yes.
so if the confidence is in him,
Yes.
then really, that's really all that matters.
Yes.
He's going to do the building. He's going to do the process.
Yep.
Right. I think that so last year at camp, which was my first year going,
It was
and
that one day, you know.
listen, I was there for 5
Listen,
days.
that's a very long
That's
day.
true.
Like,
That's
fairness.
true.
I was there
That's
for 5
true.
days.
That's
okay?
true.
So
We're there for a long time.
yeah. So during one of the prayer stations, I don't remember the exact prayer station, but I was talking about how God doesn't want us to be prideful and everything. And then one of the kids was like, so God doesn't want us to be proud of our achievements? And I was just like, no. And I knew the answer. And then, of course, he said, why not? And I was like, I know the answer, but I don't know the reasoning to my answer. You
Kids
know,
always
like,
get you.
there's some things spiritual, like you
Yeah.
just don't know,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
Yeah.
the ins and outs to it. Okay, so I don't remember exactly what I told him, but I got your answer this year, buddy. But now, but it's almost like the same thing. Is that like pride in ourselves and confidence in God are two separate feelings.
Yes.
Okay, and you should, as a Christian, I'm pretty sure we can all feel which one is which.
I know which one's
know what I'm
which.
saying?
Like when I go into something and I'm confident about something, I'm like, ooh, that's me. That's me. That's bad. That's bad.
Yeah.
That's bad. That's really bad. And then that's usually when everything
Just
goes
turned into Robin Hood out of nowhere.
and that's when everything starts falling down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's almost like I tell kids at school, just do what the teacher said. Because if you do what the teacher says, you have nothing to worry about. Because if someone questions, like, why are you in the hallway?
Because the teacher said.
The
Yep.
teacher sent me in the
Yep.
hallway.
Yeah.
Okay, you are off the hook immediately.
Yep.
Okay. So it's the same thing with God. Okay. Like if you're doing it, based on God, okay, it's not your word. You know what I mean? These are not your ideas and concepts that you're speaking about. They're God's.
Right.
Okay. So you really have almost to say you have no skin in the game. It's like, I'm telling you what he told me. That's all I'm doing.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Exactly. You know what I mean? But if it's coming from yourself, like this is you, then you have a lot of skin in the game.
You have a lot to worry about.
Right. So really, if you're worried about it, that's the first telltale sign that this is not from God.
So guys, with one life to live, the tendency is to build a life for ourselves. We build bricks of success, goals, dreams, and achievements in order to make a name for ourselves. Can you guys name a certain period of your life that you allowed pride or wanting to make a name for yourself take priority over God's will? And how did that end up for you? No one wants to share.
Okay.
Everyone's scared.
Okay.
Everyone's scared, shaking a little bit.
No, I'm not scared. Because, the three of you were, pretty much brought up in the church, okay, and all these things, okay? And while I was given a Christian background, I kind of, jumped ship, tried to swim by myself.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I've been...
Swallowed by a whale.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, anyway.
And then he got spit out 3 days later.
But, so there was a point in my life where, and I look back at it, and it's so funny because I was trying not to be prideful, but at the same time, I was being very prideful.
Yep.
Okay. So a little background about me is I used to be a DJ. Okay. And unfortunately, the only way to get gigs is to say, I'm better than that person, so you should give me their job.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
It's competition.
Exactly. But I was never okay with saying that. You know what I mean? I was like, no, I'm not going to sink to that level.
Yeah.
I'm going to think of a way around it. And then, but still, at the time, I felt like, yes, I'm being the better person because I am not dragging him through the mud.
Yeah.
Okay. But the methods that I was choosing were dragging him through the mud more so. You know what I mean? And it's just like, so at that point in my life, I was definitely not thinking about God at that time in my life. I mean, it was just you guys can probably not relate to me, but it just wasn't, where I was at. But in my Christian life, okay, I look at it more like I am in service for God.
Yep.
Okay, so everything I do, you know what I mean? I try to think is this what God would want me to do? Okay, and I wish I could just think like that and it would automatically come out. But there are times when I start to say something to someone and I just stop and I'm like, no, that's not what God would want me to say. And they're like, what? And I'm like, nothing. What? Nothing. Just tell me. I can't. You know what I mean? I made a promise to someone I will never say this. Trust me. You don't want to argue with my boss. And there are times when I think it's human nature because on some level we all want except for maybe Rachel doesn't want the spotlight ever on her. But I think most people at some point, they want the spotlight.
Yeah.
Yes,
they want recognized.
I did this. And, it wouldn't clap. And for me.
Yeah. How about you guys?
Go ahead. It's your turn.
So for me...
Think about it real hard. Deep.
So you say period of your life. How about...
a lifetime.
Yeah, how about my entire life?
Well, yeah,
So I guess kind of a little different take on... So you said pride.
Yeah.
And ultimately that's what it is.
Yeah.
So for me, as Kevin said, I grew up in church. Literally since the week of my birth, I've been in church, the same church, my entire life.
Yep.
Didn't ever leave. I'm like a bad cockroach in
go
Texas.
home.
I do leave. Yeah, I don't sleep here about a month. But I've always been here. But for the first, I want to say, I don't want to do the math.
You're gonna date
Lincoln
yourself.
freed the slaves.
You what?
Lincoln freed the slaves. It's a joke. It's a
Okay,
thing.
yeah, I have no idea what
Lincoln
that
didn't
means.
free the slaves, but that's another podcast.
Yeah, I know.
For the first, 7 years of my life,
How old are you?
257 apparently.
Yeah. Yep.
for the first 25 to 27 years of my life, however long it's been, I would say would be the period you're talking about. And what that looked like was coming to church every time the doors were open, every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Sunday, every Wednesday, reading my Bible, praying, going through the motions. And in doing that, that was my attempt to be what God wanted me to be. That was my attempt to be a good Christian, check the list, do what my parents expected, do what the church expected. I was being a good Christian by doing those things. Now, that's very different from what you said, but it's really the same thing because I'm trying to build something of my own means. Right, does that make sense? And so I was trying to please God by my efforts. And it was Ian Thomas and Ellerslie who really just changed my life in so many ways only a few years ago by understanding that that's not what the Bible teaches at all. In fact, that's the opposite of what the Bible teaches, as we're going to learn at camp. Instead, he says, you can't come to me and I'll do it for you. Just a fun, I don't know if I've ever shared this, but just a quick fun story. I was pondering this week. It's just so amazing how God works. Years ago, I mean, probably 25 years ago, long time ago, I heard this saying, and it has literally been one of those things, like, I don't know if you guys do this, but it's been one of those things that like you just kind of say it in your head every once in a while. Like it just pops in, and I don't know why, but this has been a saying I've literally had in my head for years. I mean, years, decades, and had no idea where it came from. Like I just thought it was one of those Christian cliches everybody kind of knows. And it was the saying, you can't, God never said you could. He can, God always said you would. It's just what I've always had in my head. Would you know, I come to find out, Major Ian Thomas is the one who said that, who has now become like my spiritual mentor. He's long dead and gone. But his writings have changed my life. And all along, decades, I mean, that was who it was. And so that's how God works. That was just that has nothing to do with anything. But I was very fascinated thinking about that. But so that's the period for my life, was just a lifetime of trying to get to God, trying to please God, trying to be the good Christian by my efforts, by my checklist, by my keeping and doing. And God says, no, I'm not having it.
But how many religions are based on that?
All of them except for Christianity.
Exactly.
Christianity is the only one that's not, and yet we're trying to make Christianity into that. And so even a version of Christianity that's not that is a false Christianity. And Paul writes about that. I mean, Paul, it's not like we're just taking Tower of Babel and it's like the what? It's everywhere, all throughout the scriptures. It's literally everywhere once you see it.
So having grown up in the same house and same story happened in my life. Ditto. But I mean, if you want to be more specific, I guess like coming into motherhood and stuff, like I was the first to have kids out of like everybody. And so like I didn't really have anyone to follow, so I just was trying to please every little voice that I heard. And so instead of doing it what God said to do, I was just trying to make sure when I'm in front of this person, I do this. When I'm in front of this person, I do this. And it leaves you tired and cranky. And like I didn't enjoy motherhood for the first, 2 or 3 years. When I finally...
The last 8 years.
The last 8 years now. But God
3 days
has
and 4 months.
23 seconds.
But God has done a work in my life, and now I enjoy motherhood, and I try to do it His way, which is much better than mine.
Well, that's kind of like what I was going to say. Mine is very much so. It is more of just like just a period of my life. It is a little bit. I mean, I'm still young, but
got a couple years on you.
I still got you got a couple years on me. But like, so for me, it was the same kind of thing with you. It was the people pleaser. So I was more concerned with how Renee thought, how you thought, how Rachel thought, how Gary thought, how my mom thought, how Dad thought, instead of the will of God.
Never thought how I thought.
I mean, I was already past it by the time you came along. I'm sorry. But like that's my thing is like I lived a lot of my life. If I was in God's will, if I was following what everybody else said was God's will, like that was my problem is, and I was trying to reach God through everybody else. So this worked for them. I have to do that too, and that's not the way that works. There's a reason why it's a relationship with Him, and it doesn't work if you're trying to have a relationship with Him if there's like an in-between. So if I'm going to Rachel to be like, what does God want for me? He's going to be like, why don't you just ask me yourself, you know? And so that was my issue. And actually just for like a specific thing, I am very much so of a like control person. No, I don't know if you knew that about me. But I lived
yesterday. I dumped over her box of index cards.
Oh yes.
We were standing talking about that. I accidentally knocked it over, and like I'm talking with Tom, I could feel the panic beside me, and so I stopped the conversation, and picked up the index cards. I'm like, okay, we can continue. It
was like index cards. These ones I had to go back. I couldn't walk away because I knew I had to put them back into the box. But the thing is like I have that control thing. So for a long time, I was trying to get to God by making Him look good.
Yeah.
So like it was. in my own mind, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't share some stories because some of those put him in a bad light, if that makes sense, where there's no bad light. It's just that he gets glory in different ways.
Right.
And so there was some stories that I'm like, oh, that didn't really work out. So that person died. So I'm not going to tell that story. This person got healed, but I'm going to tell this story. You know what I mean? So like
God needs you as his PR.
Yeah, I'm like, I got a checklist of, okay, I can talk about this. Can we talk about this one? No. Okay, we're not talking about that. So like a lot of my life was trying to control what other people. I know. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
No, I just thought in my head is like God, like you talk to God, like God, don't say that anymore.
You're making me bad. Like, and truly, I was trying to be like that in between for like people that were, lost. I was like, yeah, no, he's a really good guy, but why did he let this person die? I don't know about that. We're not talking about that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that was my problem is I was trying to be, I felt that for me, I had to give him glory the way that I thought it should be seen.
So many things. So go ahead.
Okay, so like what you just now said, like, is unpacked something in my brain somewhere. Okay,
are you like me?
So, unfortunately, but anyway, so I was watching a podcast of a Christian, and he was talking about like, so when he was doing a seminar, and someone said, if God is real, why does he allow like children to get cancer and everything like why does he allow such a horrible thing to happen? Okay. And the guy's response like totally blew my mind because I've been asked that question before and I was kind of like Jamie, like, nope, we're not talking about that one. Let's talk about this one. Yeah. You don't see that over there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what it is that we believe that God is the beginning and the end. He knows all things. Yep. Okay. So the reasoning is because God knows what would happen if he didn't do that.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. And the whole truth of it kind of like just, pulled the strings of my heart is that, when this child passes away from cancer, okay, he gets to go to heaven. Okay. And everything. Okay. But God knew what kind of life that person was going to lead. Yeah. Okay. So it's like saying like, oh, no, we can't have you doing that. So I'm going to take you now because you're going to go do all that stuff. And that's not going to get you, you know what I mean? Yeah. Where I need you to be.
Honestly, I feel like we try to sell God.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need to be sold.
So what I was going to say was, I thought you said that rather hilariously, but very, very well. I think, though, that perfectly paints the picture of what so many Christians, especially kids who are going to be at camp, go through. So the Bible tells us to be image bearers. Do you know what a PR relations person, a public relations person is? So you have celebrities and they have PR people who don't say this, don't say this, don't do this, don't go here, like don't, they have PR people who make their image look good. They're not the image, they make the image look good. And so what you're saying is like, you felt like being a Christian was being God's PR guy.
Yeah.
You were trying to bear, on your shoulders, bear the image of God. When the Bible instead tells us to bear the image of God from the inside out, not the outside in.
Yes.
Right.
And that's where we have it so backwards, is we're trying to make God look good or trying to live the Christian life by having that heavy weight on our shoulders of God's image. It is. It'll squash you.
Impossible.
It's
a have back problems now.
But instead, God says, no, let me burrow down inside of you and my image will come out of you.
Yeah.
And so that's very, 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 very different. There's something else I was going to say, but I totally forgot. Oh, no, I remember. So all three of your examples, I just find this rather fascinating. So all three of your examples, right? Kevin, your example, I got to say, with all three of you, I have seen that in all three of you.
Yeah.
And can I tell you, I respect you a lot more for all three of those reasons you just gave me. So if Kevin went and was just prideful, and he just let it go, said what he wanted to, trying to build, him puff himself up, I would have lost all respect for Kevin. He probably wouldn't be on the podcast, to be completely honest. But I've seen that in Kevin. I've seen that reservedness. That okay, God, what do you want? Where do you want me to be? How do you want me to handle this? I've seen that in Kevin, and so I respect him for that. And so it's like a backwards into pride, like. Does that make sense? A backwards way into respect of what we're trying to get, but the right way. Yeah. And same with Rachel. I've seen her try to please people, but then I've seen her doing it God's way and not caring where the pieces fall. And I respect that in her. I respect her as a mom.
Yep.
And same with you, James. And so with all, yes as a mom, but in your example
like in general,
of being an image bearer.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is God's way works.
Yeah.
If we would just trust God's way, like ultimately we're going to get what we need out of that. And it's better for us. It's better for him. It's better for everyone else.
He's not going to hand you bad bricks.
Yeah, exactly.
So then to me, the question, I know the answer, but I'm going to throw it out there for you guys at home to ponder this. Okay. So we sound like we know. You know what I mean? Oh, yes, we know all this, and we're perfect, and you guys should be like us. Okay,
you should have seen us 5 seconds before we started recording.
Exactly.
It was real bad.
So we all agree that, God's way is the best way. It's the only way. It's you know what I mean? So why don't we always do it?
Because we're human.
Yeah.
And because we want our cake and eat it too. Mm-hmm. We want our foundation, we want the house, we want the protection, but we want to be able to redecorate the way we want. We want it to be made out of the material we want it to be made out of.
We want to be God.
Yeah.
That's really what sin, I heard a preacher say that this week. That's what sin, every single sin boils down to. We want to be God.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the story of the Garden of Eden, that's what it boiled down to. They said you can be like God if you do this, and so they wanted to. Yep. And what I mean by that is you want to take the shots. You want to parent how you want to parent, and you want to bear God's image how you want to bear it, and you want to say what you want to say, and I want to get to God the way I want. We want to be our own God. We want to live how we want to. Yep. And that's the baseline for all sin. And so we forget, but we also fool ourselves. Yes. We know. Yeah. We remember, but we fool ourselves.
How many times do we tiptoe into a situation where like, I can just do it the way that I want to?
We blame Eve for taking one bite out of an apple, and here we are eating the whole fruit basket.
Yeah, exactly.
Time after time again.
And sharing it with other people is even worse. This is a good apple. Would you like an apple?
What happened last time? Yeah, we don't care. Just take another bite.
It's fine. But yeah.
But also that's the society that we live in. Also, it's a very me, do what you want. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I just recently cringed in my skin with so many people posting it's my birthday month and I can do what I want, and I'm like, well, no, you can't. You really can't because you'll get arrested. But also, you can't have that approach to life of it's my life and I can do what I want to do with it. And to me, actually, the hardest thing was not me accepting that I am nothing, despite what you may say. Mm-hmm. To me, it was it's not my life. You know what I mean? There's a difference between, I can't do anything without God, but it's still my life.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean? But then, when it's broken down, it's it's not your life. I'm just
well, in fact, so back to my old dead friends, they called the abundant life the exchanged life. That was literally the terminology it was known for thousands of years, was the exchanged life. Mm-hmm. And Paul writes that, not my life, but Christ. And that's exactly what Kevin's saying is it's not mine anymore. Yeah. I don't care if it's my birthday month or birthday day or birthday hour. I don't matter because it's God's life in me.
Yeah. We're Indian givers. We take it back.
We really are. We really are.
We really do. We don't have we like to
Can
be
you use a different phrase, please?
I don't have another phrase for it. Do you have another phrase?
Take backers.
Just take back. I don't know.
No take backsies.
Indian givers just rubs me the wrong way.
Okay.
But okay.
I mean, we can do takes backsies, no take backsies.
Okay. That's right. Yeah, that works.
But that's my thing is we really do give, and then we're but that part I don't really like the way you're doing that, so I'm going to take it back.
Exactly.
But
we surrender to God, you know what I mean? And then as we're going down through life, we're I surrender to God. Everything's so wait, what's that up there? What's that up there?
Fruit.
God, God, do you see that? Do you see that? Yeah. I need that part back because I don't think you see that. You know what I mean? And God's looking at us yeah, okay,
Yep.
You know?
Is everybody?
I notice.
I know there's a person.
There's a person.
It's an old dead guy.
It's an old dead guy. It is an old dead guy. Is everybody ready for my considerable quote? That's actually somebody.
Did you say pretty terrible quote?
I can't say considerable, but I may have said pretty terrible.
It's a great quote.
Honestly, with me. It is. God sends no one away empty, except those who are full of themselves.
Ooh.
D.L. Moody.
Yes. I like that.
And that's really self-explanatory on that one.
Mic drop by Moody.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's going to be our next. We're going to feature that every week next time. Mic drop by Moody.
And today's feature content is Empty Me by Sligh. That's also a camp song.
That was 2016? No,
that was
2014.
It was 13. 13. It was Daniel.
Yeah, different by design. Was that 13?
Oh, I thought it was
14 was Craven Christ.
No, that was Craven Christ. That was.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Empty Me was 13. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. Red design.
There's so many years.
There's a lot of years. Rachel.
Oh no, I'm not ready.
What do they need to bring to camp?
I didn't know I was gonna be sitting here.
I don't know if it really mattered. Was I sitting or who was sitting?
Kevin was sitting there.
It doesn't matter. It's just like in the draw. You can't think about it. You just gotta say it.
What did we do last week?
Don't think about it.
A brick.
I don't know.
Just think of something ridiculous.
She can't give you the answer.
Do you always burn my rambles?
Eels.
Please don't bring heels. Please don't bring heels.
I don't know. All I can think of is flashlights, and that's really lame.
That is really lame.
Did they do flashlights last year?
I feel like we did do
I
flashlights
can
last
fit
year.
with the last year.
Right.
Flashlight did.
Right.
It doesn't fit with brick by brick.
Think of something.
Bring some
Straw.
straw. That's what I'm
Yeah.
straw.
Bring a straw. Did they have to
A
write
straw?
Just say straw.
I'll take it.
Like,
Last-
wait. A
No,
straw.
I like a straw.
A straw.
Yeah.
Like
Because
Anytime a straw.
Do they need to
about
write?
grasping for straws.
Do they need to?
What would you like them to write on their straw?
Yeah. Do they need to write?
What's it
Something?
right on bricks?
I don't think they
Nothing.
wrote
There's
it on
Legos.
brick.
I said I'll double their points for mustaches and googly eyes, but
Yeah,
they didn't have to write
yeah.
anything.
Can you fit a mustache on a straw?
I don't.
'cause then
You
can put it
could.
like this
You
and it would
could.
be-
But then my
Would that be
mustache on
ridiculous?
every.
Yeah, that'd be ridiculous.
That would be stupid.
So you wanted them to write something on the straw?
Jamie
Yeah.
says so.
Jamie says so. Well, then what should they write?
I don't know.
Too much. Okay. No writing on
Yeah,
the
no,
straws.
no, no.
We'll take plain straws.
Your middle name.
Actually, I wrote my middle initials in F earlier.
Your middle. Not that.
Nope.
You know you could fix that.
Yeah. It is an E. That would be easy.
But then I wrote my last name as an E.
Eines.
All right. Last week's trivia. I don't remember.
Oh no, I wasn't ready.
It was
It was. Oh boy.
CJ. Help us.
You're testing my memory now. I'm so sorry. I was not ready. I could probably find it real quick.
He wasn't ready. I see.
Actually, you know what? I think I have.
I promise
I
that
have it right here.
we know this happens every week.
Yeah.
146 BC.
146.
That's the answer?
That's
But
the
what was
answer.
the question?
I don't know. The question was, what year did the Roman Empire burn the city of
burn.
Corinthians?
Oh, yeah,
The answer is
right.
146 BC.
Anyone get it right?
All
I
right.
don't think so.
Okay.
I actually didn't see anyone comment this week.
All right. So this week's trivia question: what is the second most spoken language in the world?
I see the relevance, but did we explain the relevance?
No.
Oh, the Tower of Babel. They babbled because they were all scattered. So they lost. They all spoke different languages and they couldn't work together.
Oh, yes.
No. Like sometimes things just hit me differently than it hit you guys. Is right. Someone says stop babbling on. The Tower of Babel. I'm sorry. That was a personal excitement thing.
Oh my
You had an
goodness.
aha moment.
That's right.
Is it A, English, B, Spanish, C, Hindi, or D, Mandarin Chinese?
I'm pretty sure I know this.
I
but
think I know too.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and
We will see you very soon.
yeah, very, very soon. Like it or not.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys.
Bye.
What if I want that in my tombstone?
We're not visiting when you die.
Or
No
are you going
flowers
to
for
anywhere?
you.
Because I gotta be real honest, I love all of you, but I probably won't.
You won't die?
I won't. I won't.
I love you all, but I don't plan to
I won't.
perish.
I probably won't visit any of y'all. The next time that I see you will be heaven.
Good to know. Thanks for the warning.
Ready? I don't know. I'm so tired. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Something to do with
No.
that, but you're just like as
I was
confused
as
as I
shocked
was.
as you were.
I didn't sleep the best night.
Oh, wow.
All right, now I gotta wipe this
I'm
tear
sorry
from my
for
eyes.
her, Kevin.